This is my sacrifice.
This is my sacrifice.
This is my offering.
This is my offering.
This is my offering. This is my offering. This is my offering.
It is time. A strong life must go.
My husband will be the one. His spirit will bring us power. In 3 nights he will belong to us.
Her father, her only shore.
Who is there? Catch her.
Once upon a time, they said the lagoon itself could hear secrets before dawn. In Aja's borderlands, where shiny new estates rise like glass teeth beside old cassava plots, the wind slipped through raffia mats and aluminum roofs, carrying whispers no one cared to keep. And there, in a compound, painted the color of dry clay, lived a girl named Eniola. She was only 18, but life had already pressed her into silence. Before the sun touched her street, she fetched water from a cracked borehole that groaned like an old throat. She sweat until dust curled around her ankles. She washed until her knuckles burned. She pounded yam until sweat streaked down her back. And yet, for all of this, all she ever received was a plate of cold pap. While others ate steaming stew with meat, she learned hunger was her companion. Because Eniola had a secret enemy. Not a stranger, not a thief in the night, but the woman who shared her roof. Her own stepmother. To the world outside, Mama Yemisi was Lagos hustle in full color. The boutique in Balogun, imported bags lined on racks, laughter bright as morning traffic.
Original quality, my dear.
She would sing, and customers smiled, certain she was kind.
Original quality, my dear.
But kindness is easy when it costs nothing. Inside her house, Mama Yemisi burned like a coal hidden under ash. Her warmth was saved for Shegun and Bola. Her sharpness, her scorn, her hiss, her slap, she spent on the girl who was not hers. And Baba Lola, Eniola's father, left before dawn and returned after dusk, carrying the weight of dust and weariness in his bones. He did not see Eniola's sadness, though the world around him still pulsed with hope. Laughter spilling from children's lips, birdsongs trembling against the dusk, the earth breathing as though all was well. But that is how harm survives. When the world hums with life and the wary do not notice the silence of a child's heart. This was Eniola's life until the night. The half-moon rose, bold and bright, over Lagos, and the wind itself changed direction. That night, Eniola could not sleep. Sleep would not come. The ceiling fan thudded its uneven rhythm. On her thin mat, she lay awake, listening to the quiet pulse of the house. Bola's soft snore, Shegun's restless kick against the wall, the far-off clink of bottles as a neighbour locked his kiosk. Then, a sound that did not belong, a thread of voices, low, braided, a chant that seemed to breathe. Eniola rose, toes careful on old cement. Through the louvered window she saw them, 4 figures in black wrappers, crossing the yard toward the mango tree. One of them moved with a familiarity that made her stomach drop. The shoulders, the tilt of the head. Mama Yemisi. Curiosity is how truth comes into light, and how danger finds the curious. Eniola slipped out, hugging the wall's shadow, hiding behind the mango trunk. The women stood in a circle, white powder scattered into a basin. Flames leapt like they recognized an old friend. The wind rested its hand on the yard. Everything listened. "It is time," said a voice with the weight of practice. "A strong life must go." Mama Yemisi answered, steady, almost reverent. "My husband will be the one. His spirit will bring us power. In 3 nights, he will belong to us." A wire snapped inside Eniola. Her father, her only shore. She stepped back, brain screaming, "Run, run, run." But her heel met a dry stick. It cracked. They turned, eyes like knives in firelight. "Who is there?" someone barked. "Catch her!" Mama Yemisi's voice tore the air. Eniola ran, past cassava leaves that whipped her shins, past the goat shed, past old buckets. Her breath turned to fire, but black smoke rose from the basin. It swam after her like a living thing, sweet and rotten. It wrapped her face. The world lurched sideways. And in her final slice of sight, she saw Mama Yemisi's mouth twist into a furious smile. A red flash. Then, all the doors of light closed. The world returned wrong. Grass taller, stones bigger. The ground farther from her eyes. She tried to say "Papa," but her mouth produced a broken sound, a thin, desperate that was not hers. She looked down. 4 legs, hooves, horns. A girl had gone into the dark. A goat had come out. In the storybooks, transformation feels magical. In a yard that knows your name, it feels like being erased while still alive.
Now let me see how you will tell your father.
Mama Yemisi murmured, tugging a rope around the goat's neck as if the animal had always been an animal. Her voice was cold joy. She tied Eniola near the outdoor kitchen, poured palm oil into a calabash, and whispered words that were not the language of the market or the church. Goats do not weep. If they could, the earth would have been damp beneath Eniola. Dawn crawled up the wall. The rooster announced what the sun was about to say. From his room, Baba Lola's voice came.
"Eniola, you'd bring me water."
And struck the yard like a bell that could not be answered. Silence. He tried again, confused, softer.
"Eniola."
She was there and not there. Sometimes grief is exactly that. By the time Baba left for the day, uneasy but late, Mama Yemisi had already decided the rest. Lagos rewards speed. She heaped a basket with dried fish and peppers, then, as if it were nothing at all, tucked a living girl inside the disguise of a goat. Cloth over the top. One last look around. Then she set the load on her head and headed toward the road that ran like a dusty vein to the market. Under the cloth, Eniola struggled to breathe. Her little goat heart drummed. She could taste the salt of the fish and the old wood of the basket. She thought, so this is how silence tastes. At the market, the noise was a living thing. Generators coughing, hawkers dueling in melody. Women bargaining with the boldness of people who understand the difference between want and need. Mama Yemisi tied the goat to a short stick beside her table and returned to her performance.
Strong goat for sale. Very healthy. See chest. See leg.
Hands everywhere. Testing, tugging, appraising. How much? 5,000, she said too brightly. Haba, hissed one woman, moving off. Hours turned like a pestle. No sale. At last, a quiet young man in a faded shirt and rubber slippers stopped. He carried a small, tied sack. Money, maybe, or gaddy, or both. He studied the goat the way some people read faces, slowly, with a kind of mercy. This goat, he said. How much? For you? Mama Yemisi's eyes lit. 6. He nodded, counted, paid. The sale is a small song. She sang it under her breath as she untied the rope and handed over a life that was not hers to sell. The man led the goat out of the market and toward the river end of his community. His compound was simple, a lean-to kitchen, a palm leaf roof, a small veranda where plastic chairs went to rest after long days. He tied the goat in the backyard.
Tomorrow,
he muttered, almost apologetically, and so kindly it broke something.
You will make a good stew.
The goat's legs shook. A human plea formed perfectly in her mind and came out as a note of fear. Meh. From inside, a child steps. A boy, 10, barefoot, in a torn red shirt, eyes wide and tender, in a way that told his story before he spoke. He approached the goat. He looked, really looked.
Your eyes,
He whispered.
they look like a person.
The goat tried again, gathering all the girl left in her. Help me! The boy stumbled back like he'd been pushed by air.
What?
I am not a goat. The voice came again, thin and hidden in the bleat. My name is Eniola. My stepmother did this to me. Please. His name was Tunde. He should have run to fetch his father. He should have pretended not to hear. But the world is held together more than we know by the time someone didn't do what fear advised.
How?
He breathed.
How can this be?
She wants to kill my father, Eniola said. In 3 nights, I saw them. She turned me to silence. Tunde looked at the door, at the knife his father kept on a nail, at his own small hands.
What do I do?
Hide me, she begged. Help me stay alive long enough to stop it. From inside, a voice.
Tunde, come and help me sharpen the knife.
They froze. The word knife changes air.
Don't worry.
The boy whispered to the goat.
I will find a way.
Tunde could not sleep. He lay on his mat, counting the seconds between his father's snores, praying the night would stretch longer than it had the right to. He remembered stories whispered at a compound edge. An old man near the water, Babalaja, a healer with eyes like deep wells. People said he knew things that books had forgotten. At first light, the world opened its eyes. Baba Demola, Tunde's father, stood at the back, knife in hand, the word today already formed on his tongue.
Papa!
Tunde blurted, body moving faster than fear.
Don't kill it!
His father frowned as if the word itself was misbehavior. Why?
Please, let's take it to Babalaja. Let him look. If it is only a goat, he will say. If it is not,
The boy swallowed.
please.
A father measures two things when he hears something impossible: the weight of the impossible and the weight of the child who said it. After a long moment, Baba Demola sighed and set the knife down.
You and your strange ideas.
He said, but not unkindly.
Let us go then.
They walked a ribbon of red earth under a sky just beginning to declare heat. Birds stitched thin songs from tree to tree. The goat trembled on legs that still remembered being legs. Tunde kept pace at her side, whispering,
We're close. We're close.
Babalaja's hut sat apart, as if quiet had chosen him. Clay walls, bundles of herbs hanging like green bells from the roof. Wooden figures carved by patience stood as sentries at the door. Smoke drifted from somewhere invisible.
Baba,
Called Baba Demola.
we need your help.
An old man stepped out, hair white as tide foam, skin the color of memory, eyes bright as secrets. He looked at the goat, he looked at the boy, he looked at the man who had said the word, help.
I have been waiting.
He said. And when wisdom says that, time listens. Baba Demola's brows knit.
Waiting for what?
Babalaya did not answer in words. He knelt and touched the goat's horn. A soft shock moved through the yard. Even the leaves seemed to hold their breath. Help me, whispered the voice within the bleat. The girl within the goat. Baba Demola jumped back and grabbed his son's shoulder. A man learning he had almost killed a prayer.
You see?
Tunde said, half triumph, half terror.
I told you.
Tell me everything.
Babalaya said gently. And Eniola, with the last of the strength she had gathered in the maze of fear and faith, told him of a house with two faces, of a stepmother who laughed in public and sharpened silence in private, of a midnight circle and a promise of a death in 3 nights, of smoke and a rope and the taste of market dust. The old man listened the way one drinks from a calabash, slowly, respectfully. Then he nodded once.
This is a person under a binding.
He said.
It can be cut, but the knife is not of metal.
He sprinkled white chalk in a careful pattern on a woven mat, set a calabash at its center, poured water sweetened with leaves that remember the forest. He whispered words older than rent and generators, words that felt like a hand on the back guiding someone out of a crowd. The smoke that rose from his fire was not black and not white. It was the exact color of the space between fear and hope. The ground shuddered like it had just remembered a name. Eniola's horns warmed and receded. Her hooves opened into palms that knew laundry and cassava and kindness. Her face lifted its old shape from beneath the animal that had hidden it. She fell forward, human again, trembling as if she had just swum ashore. Baba Demola stepped back, eyes wide with horror and relief.
God.
He breathed.
And I would have.
He could not finish the sentence because some endings are too heavy to hold. Tunde laughed and cried at the same time, the sound children make when a miracle fits. Thank you, Eniola whispered to the old man, to the boy, to the world that had not let her be cooked and forgotten.
You are free.
Babalaya said, but there was sorrow in the way he said it.
Freedom is not the end. Your stepmother will not stop until stopped. Go now. You have only 2 nights left.
Thank you, she said again to Tunde most of all.
Go.
He told her, a boy who had learned the size of his own courage and found it did not fit small anymore. And she ran. She ran the red road until it forgot to be red. She ran past the river where fishermen mended nets that looked like spider webs the sky had lost. She ran through the dull heat and the noise of new estates being hammered into old soil, past billboards that promised life on loan and signboards that advertised miracles with phone numbers attached. The sun held a machete to the air. Sweat slicked her back. She did not stop. When fear is behind you and love is ahead, the body negotiates. Back in the yard, Babalola sat with his worry like it was a person. He had asked neighbors. He had walked to the junction and back. He had called Eniola's name into rooms and doorways and lonely distances. Nothing had answered. Inside, Mama Yemisi pounded yam with her practiced rhythm, face set to neutral, a snake pretending to be a rope. Then a voice broke. Papa! It cracked the afternoon. Babalola stood so fast his chair fell. He turned toward the gate just as a girl flew through it. Hair wild, feet bare, dress torn. A human-shaped yes to a prayer he hadn't had the courage to say aloud. They collided into an embrace that made neighbors look up and God lean forward.
My child.
He kept saying.
My child.
She held him as if her arms were the only truth left. Papa, listen, she managed between breaths. It was not a disappearance. It was not a mistake. Mama Yemisi did this. She turned me into a goat. She is in a group. They chose you. In 3 nights, Papa. The yard filled with people, the way yards do when something larger than a house is happening. Murmurs rose and folded over one another into a sound like the sea. Faces turned toward the mortar where the stepmother's pestle had stopped.
This is a lie,
Mama Yemisi snapped. Too quickly, too loudly.
This girl has always been troublesome. How can a person become a goat? Does Netflix show you too many things?
But lies do not age well in sunlight. Eniola's voice was small and steady, the way truth sometimes is when it has almost died. I saw you. I heard you. I smelled the smoke you called, "Let the ballet hear," someone said. Let the elders judge. Fear moved inside Mama Yemisi then, a visible animal in her eyes. She looked for a door that wasn't there. They gathered in the community square, beneath an iroko whose roots had learned patience from stone. It was evening, when heat sighs and everything appears to have edges. The Baale sat with the council, men whose hair carried the color of decisions, women whose eyes measured words as if they weighed grain, youth leaders whose faces were stern in the way the future demands. The staff of office lay across the Baale's lap, carved with stories of how justice had survived here before. A police liaison stood at the edge, uniform neat, chin up, radio off, but near, because modernity insists on being invited, even where ancestors still sit. Eniola told it all again. She did not embellish. She did not perform. The details lined up like children at a water tap and waited to be counted. The market, the basket, the boy, the old man near the water. As she spoke, you could feel an invisible camera moving through the scenes, the kind that lives in the mind of any listener who has ever needed to believe a story could end well. The murmurs were louder this time. The world is loudest when it almost understands.
Bring Mama Yemisi,
the Baale said. She was brought. Pride tried to straighten her back. Fear bent it anyway.
Woman,
he said, voice even.
You have been accused of joining hands with darkness against your own house. What do you say?
She laughed, a brittle, expensive sound.
I say this is foolishness. I say a girl who does not like me has invented a film.
The Baale lifted his staff.
Bring the water.
A guard came with a small calabash. You could argue for laboratories and polygraphs and all the new ways of catching words. In this square, under this tree, there was the water of truth. You did not drink it lightly, not because it was mystical in a way that breaks science, but because it put your face in front of your own soul, and sometimes that is more terrible than any machine.
Drink,
the Baale said. Hands shook. Sweat pasted Mama Yemisi's wrapper to her spine. The calabash met her lips. Silence. The kind that gathers itself to leap. Her body trembled. A sound left her that did not belong to denial. She sank to her knees, eyes wide and unmoored. It is true, she said, and the square exhaled all at once. It is true. I hated her. I hated the way her presence made me small in my own mirror. I wanted power. They promised me a ladder if I gave them a life close to mine. I picked my husband. I chose him. The square convulsed with the complicated music of shock, anger, disgust, pity, a little fear of their own capacity to be persuaded if life stabbed hard enough. Someone spat. Someone covered her head with her scarf. Shegun and Bola began to cry in a way that sounded like something breaking. Babalola staggered, catching a breath like it had barbs.
I brought you into my house,
he said quietly, which is the worst way to be accused.
I made room for you beside my child, and this was your Thanksgiving.
The Baale stood, staff catching late light. You have brought death into a house that kept you alive, and from there into this community. We live in a time of estates and electric gates, but we still answer to the old laws of belonging. You were banished from this land, from these people. Go. If you return, it will be your last return. The warriors, because every age has its warriors, even if they wear reflective vests, took her by the arms. She kicked and pleaded, but the square had made up its mind. The path to the edge of town opened like a mouth. The forest received what the community refused.
The elders moved quickly to gather Shegu and Bola to a relative's house.
the aunt who had always sent food when Mama Yemisi measured portions with envy. Harm does not always leave the children it used. The square grew quiet. Owls negotiated their shift. A mother picked up her baby. The Baale turned to Eniola. "You have done the most difficult work," he said, and his voice lost its iron. "You stood in the place where fear and truth wrestle, and you stayed until truth could raise your hand. Because of your courage, a life was saved, and a sickness removed from our middle. Go and live in peace. May your days be proof that light is more patient than dark." Eniola bowed, tears making maps down her dust. People pressed forward the way people do when gratitude needs bodies. Women to hold her, men to squeeze Babalola's shoulder, children to stare with open admiration at the girl who returned.
That night, the compound felt new. The same wind moved through the plantain and mango, but it sounded like it had learned a new language. The same moon visited, but it threw a different light. Babalola sat with his daughter under a sky that forgave. He held her hand, as if letting go might trigger another curse. "Forgive me," he said, words heavy with the thing men are taught never to own. "I did not see. I did not ask the right questions. I mistook your silence for peace." "I am home," Eniola answered, leaning her head on his shoulder, like she had when the world still fit. "That is enough. Tomorrow we will sweep this yard, and it will be only sweeping." Far away, at the river edge, Tunde sat outside with his father. The boy traced shapes in sand with a stick, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Baba Demola watched him like a man sees a new country. "You did well," the father said simply. Tunde shrugged the way boys do when they have done something extraordinary and do not know how to accept that word. "She asked for help," he said. "I heard her." Baba Demola nodded, and pride put its arm around him. A man is measured by what he does when no one is clapping. Baba Laya stood in his doorway and watched the river pretend to be simple. He whispered a prayer old as gratitude, then pinched out his small fire. The night, at last, could rest. Stories end. Evil does not by itself. The circle in the backyard had 4 shadows. Only one had confessed in the square. Somewhere, a wrapper rustled in the dark. Somewhere, a promise was being rewritten or renewed. The lagoon listened the way it always does. As for Eniola, dawn found her with a broom in hand and an easy laugh returning to her mouth. Babalola cooked eggs himself for the first time in years and burned them proudly. Neighbours greeted them with the eager kindness communities force onto a wound they almost missed. By evening, news had travelled beyond Azur's turnings to markets and estates and WhatsApp groups and prayer meetings. People said, "Did you hear? The girl who returned." People said, "And the boy, what is his name?" Tunde, people said, "May such courage be contagious." But listen, 3 nights had been promised. The first passed in smoke. The second broke in a square. The third belonged to the living choices of a community that had learned, again, that love must be louder, earlier. If you lean close, You will still hear it in the wind that wades through the mangroves. A reminder, a vow, an unfinished chord. And you, watching, listening. What will you do when a small sound in your backyard doesn't belong to the night? 3 nights. One girl who refused to stay silent. One boy who decided to listen. One community that remembered who they were before the darkness finished counting. Because in this land, our land, light is stubborn. And when someone says, "Please help me," the answer that saves a life is always the one you give before the knife is sharpened. I'll be back with another unforgettable story. Until then, stay blessed.